Hello and welcome to Your Place, a video magazine for informative chats with automotive retailing newsmakers. I'm Dennis McGinn, founder and chief executive for vehicle reconditioning and communications company RapidRecon. 3 times a month, we visit guests at their place of business to talk about news shaping the car business, or in this case, the motorcycle business. Today, we're talking about reconditioning for motorcycles, a profit center for a growing number of franchised car dealers. Our guest today to talk about this is Chad Anderson, Vice President of Harley-Davidson Operations for H&H Automotive Group, who owns and operates 2 Harley franchises. And welcome, everybody. And then, Chad, can you just jump in here and give us some idea why does H&H and this then being in the motorcycle business, how does all that help, and what's the synergy, how does it come together?
Yeah, well, we entered the Harley-Davidson business back in 2018, and at the time, candidly, weren't actively looking for Harley-Davidson dealerships. We were just looking to expand operations, and a Harley-Davidson deal just kind of came across the owner's desk. And as they began to evaluate the brand, it very quickly became apparent to us that our culture is customer focused. We focus on high value customer interactions, and that aligns really well, most importantly, with the Harley-Davidson customer, right? And so there was an awful lot of synergies in our corporate culture. And then additionally, we're a super process and systems focused company. And as we entered the Harley-Davidson business, we really quickly recognized that a lot of the dealerships, due to scale or maybe even just awareness, don't have that level of automotive systems and processes in place. And we really quickly recognized that we had the opportunity to capture a lot of value by bringing process and systems and experience in lots of things like RapidRecon to the motorcycle industry, where they just hadn't seen things like that before. So it aligned with us very well, and it was a real natural fit.
So tell me a little bit about that, because you've got both backgrounds now, right? You've got the car background and the motorcycle background, and they're very obviously very different. But how have you applied then the workflow technology to the motorcycle business in terms of processes improvement?
Yeah. So I would say that there's probably more similarities than differences. There a lot of when you sit down and write the process outline out, the steps are virtually the same. The only real difference between motorcycles, well, not the only one, but the biggest one to me is, and it's probably a Harley-Davidson specific thing, but it's the enormous amount of customization that's done to the motorcycles. And so when we bring in a trade-in motorcycle and we're getting ready to recondition it for retail, in many cases, sourcing the parts is like, sometimes you're just trying to figure out where the part came from to try to find a replacement, right? So that adds a lot of complexity to it. And then I think really it's like just an awareness thing. In the Harley-Davidson business, again, scale is very different than automotive. And so I think the biggest challenge for us in introducing systems was just explaining and getting traditional Harley-Davidson associates to understand the importance of speed and getting things to the lot quicker. And, awareness was probably candidly our biggest struggle, was just making people understand why it was important.
What in your business model, you take a lot of trades, just like in the car business, for motorcycles, people upgrading or changing brands or things like that, I assume. And then I believe Harley Davidson tries to keep their their dealership's pretty focused on just Harley Davidson. Is that right? I mean, and so where you may take in a different brand motorcycle, those usually are you don't. I don't know. This is a question. Do you resell those through the same franchises?
Yeah, we try to resell everything. We've tried to bring the automotive model there to motorcycles. Candidly, it's not as easy because the market on non Harley Davidson is just such a dominant force in the motorcycle industry that a lot of the other brands, it can be a little more challenging finding the customer that's interested in them. But Harley Davidson, like for example, at our this last year between our two locations, we retailed just over 500 used motorcycles, and a grand total of less than 50 of those were off brand. So we try to retail all of them, but we've adopted some of our car store mindsets with regards to aging. So we give it a shot for 90 days or so, and then we're fortunate right now. The wholesale markets are pretty pretty aggressive, so it's really easy to liquidate those into other markets.
Okay. And do you have technicians in your stops that actually can go back and forth between the automotive and the motorcycle business, or do they pretty
No,
well specialize?
they do specialize in we kind of explored that as an option a couple of years ago. When we first got into business, our fixed operations in the Harley store was a lot smaller than it is today. And as we've continued to focus on process and marketing and trying to drive traffic, we don't have the seasonality is not nearly as severe as it was when we first got into business. But and this is not a function of their ability, but for us, the challenge is that all of our automotive stores are in Omaha, Nebraska, and our Harley stores are in Lincoln, Nebraska, and Springfield, Missouri. So flopping technicians back and forth from a logistics perspective isn't practical.
What a couple other questions. I noticed recently Harley's come out with an electric bike, and
Hmm.
I don't know if is that that seems like a really big thing, big departure. How is that coming across the electric Harley?
Well, they introduced the bike originally as a Harley Davidson model a couple years ago, and they did it in a limited number, like a lot of the automotive OEMs have. They did a limited number of dealers that were signed up to carry the electric bikes, and it didn't do super well. Like a lot of new introductions into electric, their price point was prohibitive, and it struggled a little bit. And so recently, Harley Davidson actually spun that brand off to be its own thing. So Livewire now is its own brand. Harley Davidson is going to open up some factory-owned retail outlets, and then partner with dealerships in limited state. I think it's California, Texas, and Florida, maybe, or something like that. But it's its own brand now. And actually, they just announced 2 weeks ago that they're doing a SPAC, public offering on that brand. So it's going to be a completely separate. But Harley is maintaining it. I think it was 70% ownership, or can't remember the number now. But it's going to be operated by Harley Davidson. But it's definitely its own brand, Livewire now.
Yeah, I saw one and I was just kind of curious as to how that was going, since obviously Harley is kind of down home,
Yeah.
the core of this business. One other big big question for me: have you ever been to Sturgis?
Well, I actually grew up in western South Dakota. I was born and raised in Wall, South Dakota. That's about 80 miles away from Sturgis. So, yes, I've frequented plenty. Intend on going back again this year.
Is it really? I mean, you hear all these stories about how many thousands of people go to Sturgis, and out here it's all about Burning Man up at above Reno and all of and I know some of the people that go up there, and yeah, they're half crazy, but they're not all crazy. But the Sturgis
Yeah.
thing would be a unique experience. Can you just maybe give us a little highlight of what it's like to go to something like that?
Yeah. So Sturgis is basically whatever you want it to be. I mean, when you get 500,000 people going to a rural destination in the hills of South Dakota, it provides a lot of variety. But as it's grown and evolved over the years, you know, there's still all the wildness that you hear about. The stories, most of the accounts you hear are usually fact based. But they've really done a good job in Sturgis of moving a lot of the, I guess, party centric activities to the campgrounds and such that are outside of the city. And in downtown Sturgis now, I mean, I'm not sure I'd call it a family oriented event for sure, but it's a lot of fun, and you can a lot of people go out there and they go out there to ride. They go out there to ride the Black Hills, are some of the most beautiful riding in the country. Other people go out there to have a good time, and that's their prerogative. And if you're looking for fun, there's plenty of it to find.
That's great. Let me circle back to the reconditioning aspects, and maybe you could just talk about how something like Rapid Recon has helped to, make that work better for you guys.
Well, I'd say the biggest thing that it's been a help for us in is actually in seasonality. I think the one unique thing about our business compared to automotive is that when sales is at its absolute peak and we're trading for the most bikes, it's also when our service business is at its, just busting at the seams with customer business. And so balancing that internal work, and also I spoke about it earlier, but just awareness of, what we have to get done. Uh, it's just been paramount in helping us get focus on something that's easy. Harley Davidson's DMS, as you know, is not exactly what you would call, it's a little antiquated, and it provides a challenge for us in monitoring that work. And Rapid Recon really just shines a spotlight on that opportunity for us. And it's been a kind of a slow rollout for us this year getting it going, but people are like, once we got through the peak of season, there was this, unparalleled awareness of how big of a challenge it is for us. Because the one thing that varies, the seasonality thing, I mean, a lot of people talk about that, but where it really, from a business perspective, if I trade for a motorcycle at the peak of season in July, and my sales desk appraises that bike at peak value, and then the service department takes until September to get that motorcycle on the lot. In Nebraska, the value of a motorcycle in July is collaterally different than it is in September. It isn't a small variance like we're accustomed to in the automotive world. I mean, it can, and in many cases, it can mean you're going to literally not sell it until spring. So, the urgency in those peak seasons, being able to keep that internal work organized, top of mind, is just critical for us in optimizing the returns on our inventory investments. So,
That makes a lot of sense. And so, uh, what are your slowest seasons then are like winter, and your spring and summer are your hot seasons?
yeah, our seasons it's not as bad as it used to be. Let me put it in that context. And we've really focused a lot on the common expression for the winter in the Midwest Harley business has always been the off season. And we've, this year, we've really focused hard on modifying our internal view of that part of the year as calling it the preseason. And so we get super focused on getting our processes
Mm.
honed in, getting our strategies for next year ironed out and really going at it proactively. So it's not been as bad, but the sales side of the business in the Harley world is really where the heavy weight gets lifted. And obviously the opportunity, you know, in our peak months, we're selling close to 100 motorcycles. And in our preseason months, we're selling 35 or 40. And so it puts a big burden on us to, continue to drive traffic. And in
Sure.
Nebraska in December, most people aren't sitting at home thinking about Harley Davidson. So we have to keep ourselves top of mind for folks for sure.
Okay. Um, well, this is this is fascinating, and I really appreciate it. I think the fact that you've been able to find a way for RapidRecon to kind of help you with your processes in there is really a lot of fun for me. And you know, there's we're continually bringing out new things, and so you'll be seeing a lot of new stuff come along. We're not static at all. We're just trying to uh, keep up with all the things like inspection tools and things like that. So you're going to have some new toys coming here fairly soon to look at that might again also help move things forward. But I really appreciate your time, Chad, and getting to know a little bit
Yeah.
about the business that you've got.